Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us at this Tunelark live event. We're going to hear from Frank Palangi today. Very excited to hear a little bit about his musical journey and also some good tips that he has to share with us. A reminder that it is the holiday season of giving, and Tunelark has gift cards for those who are excited about either starting or continuing on a musical journey. And you might want a gift card yourself, so you could put that on your Christmas list. Tunelark.com, and you can go get a gift card for someone who wants to make music part of their life. So, Frank, it is great to have you with us this afternoon. And the first question I have is, how and when did you know that music was going to be your thing?
What's going on, everybody? Pretty much at an early age, I would say. I started at the age of 12 or 13. I always say 13 because I can't remember if I started at 12 or not. But it was from the love of movie soundtracks and the love of horror movie music, and then eventually the rock music that was in those horror movies. And I was like, this stuff is cool. It was really metalish, more metal. And one day, one of my friends come over and he goes, "Here's a burned CD." This was a thing back in the day, folks. Burned CD, right? Of Metallica, the Black Album, and Ozzy, bits and pieces of Crazy Train, that record, and the Blizzard of Oz. And once I heard that, I was like, oh, okay, that's the stuff I got to learn. And it just kind of, I don't know, it's like ingrained in me. It's like part of something running through my veins. I can't get it out.
I love that. That's
But
great. Well, how did the guitar become your voice in that process?
that was the first thing I picked up. Really, I maybe played around with a little piano stuff beforehand because my grandfather had a piano always in the house. But I just really loved the guitar, and then I started jamming with friends, and they would leave like a bass and a drum set over to my house, and then I started noodling, and all of a sudden I was playing all these instruments, and I was like, let's record ourselves. So my basis is always, obviously you write and you make songs up with the guitar, and then eventually you want to sing too. And I was like, how do you sing and play guitar? I told my mom, I go, I can't do it. I can't. I can't play a riff and sing it. And it was true. And I think, you know, everyone's been bullied a little bit, and because I couldn't play it exactly right when I sang it because of the timing or whatever, I would get teased a little bit in school and stuff. But you just kind of have to, do what you like, and if that's your passion for it, you have to pursue that. So I just knew it. I've always been creative with a lot of things, and I just kept at it, and I just kept doing it and learning from books. There was no YouTube, so I bought books, guitar tab books, and then watched people play on stage and just learn that way.
That's great. I know that you're involved in a lot of different projects. Tell us a little about some of those and how you choose them.
Yeah, between I do radio interviews and I do film stuff and recording and obviously being an artist. It's kind of like I have to follow where I guess the income is coming in, because my whole goal is to like do music forever, but to make a better living at it too. But I'm so creative, and I love film. If an acting project comes up, I will submit for it. And if you have to act for that day, I put on my actor's, psyche. Or I just made a horror movie, so I was like, well, let me do my first movie. I've been doing films since I was a kid, so let me try that. So I had my director's hat on for that, and then go back to music. And same thing with lessons. I get in lesson mode. And I'm like, it's not my time to be creative. Sometimes I want to noodle and just play, but you got to sit back. And yeah, I'm kind of waiting to see what takes off more. I'm not really sure. Teaching has been, I'd say, like 40 or 50% of my scheduling part for the last couple years since COVID hit. And it was the perfect time, to get into it and do it. But I love all of it. I'm really a studio rat, as you call it. I love just recording, and you guys can't see this part of my studio, but I have all my gear here. So
Well, I know that you said you do a project with some people in the UK. Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, the radio show that I have is a rock radio show, but it's through the UK. So even though it's an internet radio station, it broadcasts everywhere. And I was actually Artist of the Year for the 2018 season, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." They all, really loved my music and stuff, and they're like, "The rock guy that had a show passed away," and we go, "We don't know anybody else. We thought of you first." And I'm like, "I did DJing in college, and I'm like, I do like to interview people. Okay, let's give it a shot." So it's been awesome. We've interviewed people from Saving Abel and a bunch of rock guys, Ace Frehley's band, Gene Simmons' band, My Darkest Days. I have 3 Days Grace singer coming up with a Puddle of Mud singer and some local guys. So it's cool.
That sounds inspiring.
It's a little nerve wracking sometimes. It's like there's a big interview coming up. It's like you might have a local musician, you're talking like this and stuff, but it's like, oh man, this guy, this is different. This guy's in like a famous band. I don't want to screw this up.
Well, tell us a little of the experiences and people that have influenced your career and really kept you inspired.
Some of my influences in music, there was a Christian rock band, Day of Fire. They were Grammy nominated and on tour, and it's kind of how I started. I had made demos through a lot of years, and I'm like, we all dream of working with our influences, right? And it's happened for me twice. So it can happen, folks, if you picture it. For them, it was the last day on their what would have been the last gig on their tour, which nobody really knew about it. They were having some issues somehow, and it was one of those things. I gave the CD to the singer, and the singer liked it, and then they gave it to the producer. It was like what was that movie, Rockstar, a little bit, where one thing led to another. And then I was in Nashville recording in the studio with like Taylor Swift's studio that she recorded. I don't think it's there anymore. It was called I can't remember what it's called. Something. They changed the name of it. But Shinedown was flying in, rock band that you guys probably know. Sound of Madness, they were finishing their record. And unfortunately I was leaving that day. But there's a lot of pressure being thrown in to a lot of that kind of stuff. But all those guys, they kept me influenced, and it was like one of those moments where I still feel it's like, if you're gonna work with kind of one of those guys and those big producers, this is it. You know what I mean? You have to, there's one shot, and you have to do this, and you have to be in the right frame of mind, and you have to do the best you can. It's not like I have a studio date coming up Thursday that I'm going to Nashville for and working for this producer. I can practice tomorrow. It doesn't exist. It's every day until then, you know.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Tell us a positive angle for you that's been true teaching with Tunelark.
I mean, I love actually teaching online. I wasn't sure for a while. I taught in a store. I teach here. And I started doing a few kind of makeup dates on my own, just online and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. But then I got into it when you guys contacted me. I was actually looking for something like that because partly we had a house fire and I had nothing else to do. I just had like a guitar and something else. And I was like, I need to do something to keep me motivated and to further my skills, but just to kind of meet people, socially like this and stuff still. So, no, it was great. I mean, I don't see any problem teaching online, versus in person. The only thing you can't do because of the delay is if we wanted to play something exact get together. But usually what I'll say is I'll play this part and then you play over me. So as long as they can play to me, then we start to mini jam, based off of that. But
Yeah,
honestly, it's great not the ability to not have to push and push and push and push to get a student. You guys reach out there and people contact you through your website. So
well,
that's
that's
kind of nice. It's almost like an agent
exactly very
in a
much
way.
so, and
Yeah.
it's really true that a lot of our instructors had, of course, started hesitantly with the online world, and many have really enjoyed the adaptations that they've learned to make. They've dug in and found new ways to teach that they couldn't do in person, like particular tools and tricks. And so it's been really exciting to hear that. And a lot of people really appreciate the convenience, both the instructor and the students. So
Yeah, saves gas. You can do it anywhere in your kitchen or whatever in a studio.
yeah, exactly. So tell us a little bit about gear, because I know you've got a wall full of it, and maybe kind of tier it. Like, what's the basic gear that somebody needs to get started? Maybe just teaching online, and then what have you ended up with?
I tell all students, because I'm old school, they need a notebook or a blank guitar tab notebook with a pen so you can write stuff in there. An acoustic electric guitar, you'd need a guitar cable to a small amp. People forget about the guitar cables for some reason when you buy an amp, and they can be kind of expensive too. And then picks, depending on the style that you want to learn. I would say too, keep in mind, it doesn't matter when you're first starting, but the thickness of a guitar pick, whether it's a medium or a light or a heavy gauge, or if you use the numbers, the fancy numbers, the .70 and stuff, just kind of pick one that you think that you'd like that's not too hard, and then go from there. There's many different styles of picks. Guitars too, sometimes the ones that look cool aren't necessarily the great ones to play. I play guitars that look awesome and I go, wow, this plays horrible. Horrible. So maybe keep that in mind a little bit. Pick one that, even if you haven't played at all, just be like, this feels okay. It's not too thick, or maybe it is too thin and I like it. I like a smaller neck or something like that. But I've used ESP guitars for a lot of years. This is a Schecter guitar. This is kind of like my teaching guitar. And when I play out live, I would use Ovation acoustic guitars. And I'm endorsed by a couple different brands. And bass, I use Spectre, which Nickelback and stuff uses it. And I'm like, I love the thick sound of the rock kind of stuff. And there's cable companies out there. I guess just because I'm endorsed with them. Pig Hog cables, I use them all the time. They're awesome. They'll last. I haven't had one die yet. So I've owned a few for like 4 years now, and I use them a lot. So yeah, there's a lot of things to think about. I don't know, like recording gear. We could talk about that for an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, just be comfortable with the instrument that you pick and your price range. Just do your research. That's what I tell everybody. Do your research.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good thing. Well, I think you had some musical things you were going to share with us today. So,
Yeah.
take it away with that guitar.
There's a single I released during the pandemic called Fire of Love. It released 3 days before our house fire, believe it or not. And I couldn't believe it. The song is called Fire of Love, and the poster is like me on fire. So I figure I'll break down that riff for you guys. So your guitars, my guitar, I play in D standard because of my voice. Everyone plays in E, but I can sing a little easier if the guitar is down a couple octaves. So, basically, if you guys can hear this. So this guitar is tuned in E, but I have a pedal that tunes my guitar in D. So they make pedals out there you can play in any tuning known to man. So when you're recording or teaching too, because some students are like, I play in C. I'm like, oh geez, I don't know, I have to buy another guitar for C. So the guy who recorded drums goes, it's got a Nickelback-y kind of guitar vibe. And I was like, oh, that's not a bad thing, I guess. But my influence was Joe Perry from Aerosmith. I was like, how do I make a heavy riff, but then add that little blues twist and tang to it? Like anything, you got to pick the right tempo and what you're playing. So it kind of starts off like this, where it's got a little intro, and it's like... Then there's like a little drum fill. Let's see here. I don't think I'm fully plugged in. There we go. Okay. So drum fill, and then it goes. There's a lot of things going on right there. So you have your root note, you got D now instead of E. And I'm like, what's the thing that adds the little bluesiness to it? Because I was playing around with, it's in a minor scale for anyone who plays guitar. I was playing around with like Metallica. And I go, that's cool, but it's a little too heavy. You know, I want it energetic. So where do you throw the energetic? You go back to the blues and you add that. Just that sound. You're like, oh, okay. Then you hit that extra note. And it's very Aerosmith, bluesy kind of stuff. But then I take influences from a lot of different bands. Like coming out of that into the verse is a little Metallica with the chugging, with the... James Hetfield does that all the time, and I love that stuff. That kind of switches. You got the verse, you figure you got lyrics and stuff coming in, but very inspired by 3 Days Grace and Def Leppard. So it comes up with kind of, and I use an octave effect on it. So it goes... So that's kind of like 3 Days Grace's music. That's slower, but when you listen to it, there's a lot of, mixed with the drop chords and stuff. Since I'm in standard, I can't do the drop chords. But then it kind of goes into a Def Leppard-y thing with the... Then back into the riff. Obviously, you can't hear the words right now, but I grew up with a lot of different Def Leppard riffs. I love the first couple albums and stuff, and it's not like intentionally like, oh, I'm gonna throw in something from that band. It just happens, and so I'm like, how do I keep going with the flow? And there's actually root note changes. Like I'm playing in D here. Right, and if you were in standard, the root note for the pre-chorus part would be an A. So I drop that down to like a B. And I go back to the D for the chorus. Because a lot of rock songs, they usually start in the key that they hit the chorus a lot of times, and in the middle you can do whatever you want. But I don't know, there's like in the chorus, there's a lot of... Megadeth? You ever heard of Megadeth? He's always, even though they're fast and speed metal, he's always said melody is key. So they do a lot of these like little tritone things, and I've always loved that. I was like, all right. Instead of a full chord, because I'm like, it might not feel as heavy, but it'll feel more melodic. So that's a little bit of a breakdown to it, and it all depends on your lyrics too. Like if you sing and play guitar, unfortunately, you can't just play anything, to be honest, because if the lyrics don't match up, guitar part don't match up. So in the verse, when I'm going. I think, okay, what's the lyrics doing, and then what's the drums doing? So the lyrics for me is on through the night, the ground is shaking, slowly taking, holding tight. This is kind of a little boppy. So And that brings my 13-year-old self of I can't sing and play guitar. So you play the guitar riff based off of the way you can sing it.
Do you have access to a recording so we could hear the whole song?
I do. I can't play it back on this,
Oh, okay.
but if you guys search my music on Reverb Nation or SoundCloud or YouTube, it's free on there. You could follow me on Spotify.
And tell us the name again.
Fire Love is the
Yeah.
song, and if you want to buy it, it's on Amazon and iTunes, Deezer for you guys over in the UK and everywhere else. And then I'll just play a little bit of the second verse. I have a tendency of not playing the same verses twice. A lot of bands I know it's like the same riffs and stuff, but so coming out of the Joe Perry, Aerosmithy, Nickelback, I guess riffy. They're like Nickelback, how dare you? So it's a little different, a little more upbeat, and it keeps rocking from there. There's a key change in probably like the end, towards the end. There's a bridge change, and I decided to, I don't know if like Journey or something was an influence. I was like, I gotta do something different. So it's interesting. Like if you listen to this, the end of the chorus. It's like so it has a little different feel, and then it goes back to the chorus. You don't understand if you listen to the real song, but I don't know. It's I guess point taken is I love my D standard. I do play a lot in drop C, but I will. When I jam, I do play in like regular tuning and stuff like that. But there's cool open tunings too if you guys want to mess around with things like Led Zeppelin, kind of like the Godfather, the open tuning, the da na 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 na, that kind of stuff. And Mark Tremonti from Creed, that's the one guy I don't mention him enough, but huge influence in my playing. Because you have the melodic, riffs and structures, and but it's kind of still, it's that post grunge heavy kind of stuff. So sometimes I'm not the most detailed interest. I work off of feeling. You kind of feel it and get it. So
That's great. Irish, I want to check in with you and see if we had any questions come in.
No questions so far.
Okay.
everybody's at work today.
Exactly.
But
They're gonna watch it later.
yeah, everybody watching later, appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today and to share some of this ways that you come up with your musical ideas. I love how you can call up all those influences just one after the other and say it's a little bit like this, and that is how music is.
Yeah, that song runs through everything. The other part of the bridge I didn't mention, there's a little daughtry in there, just from influence with that stuff. So it's you never know, you never know what's what.
Well, and part of that comes about because you're such a passionate listener, and you work with music all the time in so many different ways, and so then it just like you said, you've been absorbing it for years and years, and
I've listened to every record from those bands. I've seen, if I haven't seen them live, I've seen them on DVDs back in the day. No
Yeah.
YouTube. Now I watch some stuff on YouTube, but some of them, I've seen live too. Some of them I've got to work with, like the guys from Daughtry I've worked with on a few of my songs. So I pay more attention a little bit to their styles. And because I've liked their music and stuff like that, a little bit of it, just because they're the guy that played it, like the riff, like Brian, a little bit of that sprinkles into your style and your music, and it's cool.
well, and I think also we're attracted to it for a reason, because it means something to us, like just the emotional, whatever that is.
Yes.
And that's
Yep.
becomes a part of your own expression. So, well, thanks, Frank. And we'll all go look up your song and listen to it now that we know how it's built.
All right, guys. Want me to take you out with a riff here?
Yes, please.
All right.
That's fantastic. Well, have a great rest of the day, and thank you so much.
All right, guys.
Okay.
Thanks for having me. I'll see you later. Hopefully, I'll
Uh,
see you soon.
Yep.